So great. Thank you ever so much, Craig. Lovely to see you. So first of our killer questions for you, Craig, what got you into data?
So, strangely, I've got a degree in information systems, which I never actually used. And I thought, I've kind of, I guess my parents spent all this money educating me in the early 2000s when IT was, the job to have. And it's just never really fit with me, I think, in terms of a professional environment. And fast forward, probably 13, 14 years later, I got into a company that started doing conferences for chief data officers. And I started the South African business for that. And yeah, just started, I guess, having really good conversations with a very small group of chief data officers in South Africa, which then just happened to grow almost exponentially. And I like to think it was something to do with me bringing those people to have conversations around what a CDO role is and then what's the importance of data. Maybe we played a small role in that. But yeah, really, that's how I got into data. And that's been 9 years now of working really closely with the South African and Middle East data community. It's just been good. I mean, we made some pretty good friends out of it as well. But it's been fascinating to see how it's grown and matured and evolved over nearly a decade now.
Excellent, great. Thanks, Craig. And obviously you're in Johannesburg now, but with your picture of Dubai in the background, so representing both locations.
Absolutely. I've spent a lot of time in Dubai. My parents actually lived there in the early 2000s as well. And I think my sister gave that to me as a gift. But yeah, it just kind of ties in nicely the fact that we've actually got a business in Dubai as well. I love spending some time up there.
Excellent. Cool. Thanks, Craig. So second killer question for you. What do you see as the biggest challenge, biggest data related challenge for organizations in 2024?
I think it's going to continue to be, just from the conversations I'm having, and I know it sounds like a very specific thing and maybe a little bit sort of fundamental, but I think data quality is still a really big challenge. I think certainly as AI, generative AI, large language models come into play, and everybody's moving very rapidly towards that area and how they're going to utilize that technology and leverage it into their businesses. The data quality side of things is still a really big issue. And it's kind of a surprise to me. As I said, we've been having these conversations for nearly 9 years now, and data quality is kind of an ever-present topic at the events that we do. It's a really big part of the conversation, and I think it's just always such an important part of what you're going to get out of AI or advanced analytics, Gen AI, etc. So I think for me, that's still a big challenge. Data literacy maybe comes in next around that, just making sure that the whole organization really understands data, how to use it, what the value is, where it sits in the organization, the tools. And I think this is even more important now. Everything kind of leads back either upwards or downwards to generative AI and AI, I guess, in general. So I think, for me, those are the two big things. I don't know if AI and Gen AI are particularly a challenge, because I think people are kind of getting their heads around it quite quickly. I think it's everything that supports that. I guess it's the understanding across the organization is who's funding it, who's sponsoring it, where does it sit in the organization, who owns it, how do you implement that, how do we move ourselves up the AI maturity curve. So I think those are kind of inherent challenges. I think it's how do you really support the quality of that. That I find, those are the big conversations, I guess, that we're having with chief data officers across the region. So I mean, I could talk about it for hours, but
absolutely. So thanks, Craig. So the opposite question for you: what do you see as the biggest data-related opportunity for organizations in 2024?
That's a good question, Helen. So I think, I guess similar to that is AI. It's really how do you support that? But the opportunity really comes, and I guess the competitive advantage comes into how organizations are utilizing and leveraging AI, just from almost like an automation point of view, an efficiency point of view. I don't think it's something that necessarily needs to be in every process and every department across every organization. I think there's a sort of a misstep in terms of putting in AI for AI's sake, but where it really can add value, I think that's where the opportunity lies. And I think if you think about something around hyper personalization from a marketing customer insights point of view, I think that's really where it's going to come into play. I mean, obviously there's huge amounts of value can add in the fraud and risk environments as well. But we recently, 2 weeks ago, ran an event for CMOs and marketing professionals, and AI was definitely the top talking point. How is it going to handle like recommendation engines, the hyper personalization side of things? How do we really get to understand our customer more? How do we speak to them in a much more authentic way using, Chat GPT? How do we train the models to kind of talk to the customer the way that they want to be talked to, not just business speak? So I think for me, that's the opportunity. And I guess it's where does the technology side of things, the infrastructure side of things, the data side of things, and then the business side of things intersect to really take advantage of AI. So for me, yeah, that's got to be the biggest opportunity right now.
Absolutely, makes perfect sense. And and AI has been around a long time, but it really feels that Chat GPT has totally propelled it into normality, doesn't it? In the last kind of almost 6 months. 9 months. It's crazy how widely adopted it is now, and it never was before. So
I think
excellent. And last question. Oh, sorry, go for it, Craig.
Oh, yeah, no, I was going to say, just with ChatGPT and sort of the prompt engineering, I think it's almost making AI less technical, less scary. I think it's becoming a lot more accessible to the, let's say the average business user, but let's say the business user rather than the technical side of the business. And I think that's really where the acceleration of the adoption is going to come in, is just the usability of it.
Yeah, totally. And non-technical business leaders playing with ChatGPT and going, why isn't everything I do at work this easy? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Craig. And last question, most important one. Do you know a data or AI related joke you could share with us?
I don't. We years ago we had sort of come up with a Chuck Norris sort of style of jokes for a figurine that we had created called Data Dave, and it's kind of something along the lines of Data Dave once swam the entire length of a data lake on a single breath, and I think that's probably my only data related jokes.
Yeah, I know one data related joke, but it's very rude, so I shouldn't share this on this podcast. I'll share it with you afterwards.
Fair enough.
But thank you ever so much, Craig. Really appreciate it. Thanks for answering our killer questions.
No, likewise, Helen. Thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it.